The late 2010s was a difficult time to be a fan of Wally West as the Flash. Sure, Barry Allen had his book that's been going on for 100 issues plus, and Joshua Williamson was writing it fairly strongly, according to the Flash fanbase at the time, and is still typically a strong writer. However, Wally West fans were suffering. After Flash War, and even before Flash War, Wally was put through the ringer. He didn't know where his kids were, his wife won't talk to him, and now DC had another problem, because Dan DiDio and Tom King made Heroes in Crisis. And I will not talk about what Heroes in Crisis did to Wally West today, just know that it was terrible. And so we're at a predicament. How do we salvage the Flash fan base to get them to continue reading comics? Well, you redeem him. You redeem the Flash. And so Dan DiDio set off to hire some people to create a new Flash book called Flash Forward. Flash Forward was initially designed to not only revitalize Wally West once again, but also to bring up a new relaunch for DC known as 5G. Like, it was supposed to be the first phase in that. However, 5G fell through, but Death Metal didn't fall through, so it just led into Death Metal. However, we're not going to talk about how Flash Forward crosses into the DC landscape as a whole and how big it is for the DC universe. Today, we're just going to talk about how Flash Forward revitalized Wally West as a character and why it is important to the Flash mythos. Hi, I'm CJF Hotshot. Welcome to the importance of Flash Forward. Flash Forward is a series created by Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth. Brett Booth has worked on The Flash many a times before. He drew the back half of New 52 Flash, as well as working on Titans 2016, which is, for the first 7 issues, is a Wally West Flash book, and for the rest of it is your normal Titans affair. But since it's a normal Titans affair, it means that the Flash was put through the ringer because it was Titans, and no character leaves a Titans book unscathed. However, this was fine. We knew how Titans worked at the time, and yada yada yada. Scott Lobdell was famous for Red Hood and the Outlaws, and they also had like a creative partnership, mainly for Teen Titans during the New 52. People didn't like Teen Titans during the New 52, so the fan base was kind of skeptical about Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth's partnership because of the previous content that this partnership has produced in the past. However, those were under New 52 mandates instead of DC of 2019 mandates. Slightly different, you know? Also, this is about revitalizing a character that has been put through the ringer instead of making an entirely new one. So, Scott Lobdell, Brett Booth, Flash Forward issue 1. Now, issue 1 just kind of like sets up where Wally's mental state is, and it's not good. He is very, very sad. You can label issue 1 as Emo Flash. It's basically like set up. This is where Wally West is right now. He's in prison due to the events of Heroes in Crisis, and he kind of harbors into self-hatred. Luckily, Linda does visit him to see if they can like start the train rolling so they can talk. However, he's still sad. So, we have to go into a cosmic adventure. The Mobius chair is searching for a new host, and the previous host is dead, and people who are trying to be the new host died as soon as they sat upon the Mobius chair. Normally, Metron would be here, but he is disposed of, hence why the Mobius chair is vacant in the first place. So, there's this guy called Tempest Fuginaut. Think of him as like Wally West's guardian angel for this arc, but also a guardian angel for the multiverse. Because right now, no matter what, the multiverse needs saving. There's like a dark parasitic energy flowing through multiple Earths. And there's only one man who can stop the darkness from spreading across the multiverse. So Tempest Fuginaut snatches Wally West out of prison, puts Wally West into this ridiculous costume that he started wearing in DC Rebirth, and told him to start running. However, Wally says, I can't do this anymore. Not after what just happened. But life or death scenario. Wally races forward anyway into issue 2. Issue 2 serves the purpose of revitalizing Wally's heroic spirit, to show him that he can stand once again with the likes of President Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and the rest of the JLA. Issue 2 was the JLA issue, showing that yes, Wally West does belong among a pantheon of superheroes. He just doesn't believe it right now because of certain events. So, yeah. Honestly, it was quite short, but that's kind of what it serves. We get like a bunch of like X-Men analogs. It's pretty cool. We get some like nice action sequences. But that isn't what we want. This isn't like the main part of Wally's arc. This is just to set him on the journey. But issue 2 does end on a cliffhanger. Jai and Irey are alive. And they're on a mysterious planet. I know, mysterious, right? So, we jump into issue 3, which I have labelled Roy. You can also label it as like friends, mentors, titans, whatever, but I'm labelling it Roy because this is where Wally learns to deal with Roy's sacrifice. To know that Roy didn't die a victim, he died a hero in his heroic life. Just as he did it in Heroes in Crisis. And more importantly, this vampiric hunter world Roy that we see in Flash Forward issue 3. Yeah, he dies in Wally's arms and tells Wally, no. This is not your fault. This is not your fault. I was probably going to die anyway. I'm a vampire hunter. This world's full of vampires. Don't worry. So, there's also some really cool things in this issue. Mainly that there's also a vampiric Barry and Wally and Vampire Hunter Roy saved this version of Barry's existence. So this version of Barry gets like one last moment with Wally before he dies. Yeah. So at the end of this issue, Wally remembers Roy as a hero instead of a victim. He also puts Vampire Batman into like some liquid chamber thing, something in the Batcave. Who cares, right? Issue 4. Issue 4 is quite important, I think, because this is where the flashbacks start. The flashbacks to the Wild West era, and also the flashbacks to when Jai and Irey were just spawned before Infinite Crisis. And so we'll see these flashbacks like carry on through issue 4 and issue 5. However, the purpose of this issue is to remind Wally of Linda. To remind Wally, Linda is your lightning rod. This is the woman you love. And so we do this by introducing a multiversal counterpart of Linda, just like how we did with Roy in the JLA. And the multiversal counterpart of Linda is called Lightspeed, who wears like a Godspeed-esque costume. There's like a whole thing about like Lightspeed on the internet. Don't worry about it. But Wally ends up saving 2 worlds with this alternate version of Linda. And you see like the pattern here. Questions that end up in Wally's mind and in his psyche about how he keeps failing people are solved by the physical presence of alternate versions of them there. And so not only do we see Wally's internal psyche heal a little bit, we also get to see it externalized through alternate versions of the JLA, Roy Harper, and Linda. So, when issue 4 ends, we get the reuniting between Wally West, Jai West, and Irey West. Wally's reunited with his kids, and we jump to issue 5 right away because that's where issue 4 leaves off, because issue 5 is it's not really all about Jai and Irey. I'd say issue 5 and 6 are about Jai and Irey, but like there's a whole thing I'm trying to label for issue 6, so just hang on a minute. But issue 5 is about Jai and Irey. About Wally's fear of losing them. Because this world that Jai and Irey are stuck in is created by Wally's fear of losing them. So no matter how hard he tries to keep them together, to keep them with him, they get lost into the void. And then Wally has a fight with Tempest Fuginaut about this, and then races throughout the world trying to purge the dark energy, going faster and faster than ever before. A lot of speed feats in Flash Forward that I'm kind of skipping over for like the main character arc. But Wally lands in front of the Mobius chair. You know how I said the Mobius chair was searching for its host? And you know how Wally West was the only person who could stop these disasters? It's because, A, Wally West is going to be the new host of the Mobius chair. And also because these worlds, these dark aberrations of the world, are created by Wally's fears. Fears of losing his friends, the respect to the JLA, like the fear of like not living up to the JLA standards, the fear of his self-doubt over Roy, the fear of losing Jai and Irate, and the fear of losing Linda. Luckily, Wally does save Jai and Irate in issue 6, and issue 6 I am labeling as the chair. I know, very ominous, right? So, Wally is allowed one last day with his kids. Dark multiverse worlds here, at least, were created by Wally's fears, and Jai and Irate are still real, at least. Wally sets them down to go to sleep, knowing that if they're alive, then he can do anything. That he's at least at peace of mind to carry out one last task. The Mobius chair has chosen him as a host, and Wally complies. He sits down on the Mobius chair, and Tempest Fuginaut takes Jai and Irate back home. To Linda, where she remembers everything. Everything about her life with Wally, and remembers her kids. That's kind of where the story ends, with Wally on the Mobius chair, sitting over, watching like with the palm of his hand, Jai and Irate enter the house safely. Kind of hinting that there's like enough of a hint of Wally West in there to show that he still cares about his family, to know that they're safe and sound. But also, Wally has a new prerogative now of stopping multiversal, not stopping multiversal crises, but like stitching up the timeline a little bit so that time doesn't break upon itself, because Barry Allen in the previous arc of Flash found out that hypertime is broken. So this is basically what Wally's doing on the Mobius chair. He's fixing hypertime a little. And ain't that cool? We also get this like sick new design, but why was this story important to the Flash fan base and is still important today? Because that's what the next part of this video is gonna like address. Like, we just told the story, and trust me, it's really good, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Hang on. So can I just say, it's like a kid who was in high school at the time, reading Flash Forward, like as it was coming out, was pretty fucking cool. Especially by the end, where Wally sat on the god chair and basically became a god. Like, that's what teenage me, kind of like young teenage me, took away from that story, is that Wally West is just awesome. And like, this goes for like a bunch of like the power scalers. Like, if you talk about like Wally West on TikTok, you're most likely to find Wally West in his DC Rebirth suit or on the Mobius chair, and people are just saying he is so powerful, he's been on the Mobius chair, it's so awesome. So it's quite a fascinating thing to like have seen that like unfold in real time, and now it's kind of like the basis of like a bunch of like TikTok edits. But it was also kind of like a moment of like healing for the Flash fan base in a way, because now that Wally West was put into a slightly more positive position than he was just 2 years prior in 2018, I think the Flash fan base had like started to develop trust in DC again. I mean, sure, Paradox was like a thing, and like Finish Line didn't include Wally, even though it included everyone else, but by the end of it, we got Speed Metal. And we also got the next run of The Flash. And this story, Flash Forward, also heavily influences Jeremy Adams' run on The Flash. The first arc, Blink of an Eye, where Wally West kind of returns, is kind of a spiritual successor, because Wally wasn't fully healed yet. He was still very insecure about his way in the world and whether he wanted to be the Flash, and he needed that extra push to say, no, you're okay. Also, everything was Eobard and Savitar's fault anyway, so don't even worry about that. But he just needed, like, one last bit of affirmation that Wally that he himself could be the Flash again. And I think Roy Harper kind of gave him that at the end of Blink of an Eye. But also it kind of shows Wally West's place in the DC universe. Not Flash Forward's place in the DC universe, but Wally's place as a whole. Where now he holds so much information in his head from the Mobius share. Like, not all of it, obviously, but like the stuff that he thought would be important, he remembers. So like how there's multiple timelines, his current friendship with Piper, Ace West especially. Like, this is canon Wally West, who experienced like 3 different timelines, basically. Like, it's pretty cool. And all of this because Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth were like a patchwork team for it. And oh my god, you want to know something? Brett Booth is awesome because like he's like a Flash fan from like Day Dot, right? Like from Day Dot, Mike Baron. So not only did he like put like a bunch of like Mike Baron references in both like Flash Forward and Flash Speed Buggy, but he was also the one who advocated for Wally West's return way back when in like 2016. Like he advocated for it in like New 52. And that's how Ace West was created as well, because one of the reasons being that Brett Booth just wanted Wally back. So yeah, Brett Booth is kind of like the Flash campaigner at DC for a long time. And I couldn't be more thankful for him. Because of Brett Booth, we have the Flash we know today. And hey, Flash Speed Buggy. Wacky story. I do recommend you read Flash Speed Buggy as well. It's like in DC Hanna-Barbera Volume 2. Don't worry about that. But yeah. Still, let's circle back around to Flash Forward because it was wild. Like, it was probably the best Flash story we had in like a couple of years as well. Like since probably the Godspeed arc, or no, since Running Scared, I'd say. Since Running Scared. Like, this was the best Flash story since then. And it kind of showed, you know? Just like, I was insanely happy in this story as a kid, and now, like, I'm not that much older. Like, I'm only like a few years older, but you know what I mean? But just like, looking back at it now, yeah. I appreciate it for what it is. And that's why Flash Forward is important. Also, Flash Forward is just referenced a lot, because like, Wally West does a bunch of like Doctor Who speeches in Jeremy Adams' Flash run. Like, there's one in like Flash 789 which just said, I am the Flash, I am unmoored. I sat on the God chair, don't fuck with me. So yeah. It kind of makes me wonder what's next for the Flash. Because Wally has recovered from the rut of 2018 and is now celebrating with Jeremy Adams. So with Simon Spurrier's run, it would be interesting to see if how not only Jeremy Adams' run influences Simon Spurrier's run, but also how Flash Forward influences it. To see if Wally still holds some of these fears, even though the things that caused those fears are long gone by now. But that's all for now. Peace out, everyone.